Hi everyone! Again, we're back with another video. This time we are covering lesson 6 on Code Studio. So just like always, make sure you have that Unit 2 notebook open because we're going to need to read the instructions for lesson 6, and make sure that you're logged into Code Studio lesson 6. All right, let's check out our notebook for the instructions. Page 18, lesson 6. This is going to be styling text with CSS. Our essential question: how can we change the style of text on a web page? All right, so we're going to be looking at a new language today called CSS that helps us add style to our web page. Again, if you don't know how to get to the page, although by now you should know how to get to our lesson, but in case you forgot, page 19 goes over that one more time. So we are on lesson 6. Let's check out page 20. Instructions for this lesson: we are doing Code Studio Unit 2, Lesson 6. We're going to complete bubbles 1 through 10. Please make sure to read the instructions below for bubble 10. So once we hit bubble 10, we're going to read these instructions. We're going to skip bubble 11, and bubble 12 is an optional challenge. I will not be grading any bubble for this lesson. However, what you learn in this lesson will be assessed in lesson 7. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get started with bubble 1 on Code Studio. Lesson 6, styling with CSS, bubble 1. Here is our overview. Like always, we don't have to do anything here. We can go ahead and continue on to bubble 2. So bubble 2 asks you to click the website below to discover some new types of styling for your pages. If we check this out, we see a sample web page there. And on the sample web page, what are some things that you notice? How did they change some of the text? What are some things you notice? You probably mentioned color. Yeah, you probably mentioned color. You might have mentioned that some of the words are underlined. You might have mentioned that there's some words that are italicized. And you might notice that there's some very tiny words here. These are the authors, or the names of the people who said these speeches. So we can see that we can change the color of text. We can change the underline, if it's underlined, if it's italicized, if it's bolded, and we can also change the size of text. So these are some of the things that we can change on our web page, and that's what we're going to learn to do in this lesson. I'm just going back. I just clicked the back button, went back to Code Studio. I'm going to click continue. And now let's start off with bubble 3, adding style. This web lab project, oh, my face is in the way. That's okay. I'll bring it down. Adding style. This web lab project is using a new language to add style to the page. With the teacher, with the class, explore both the index.html and style.css files. Be ready to discuss the following questions. So on your left side of your screen, you're going to see the index file and the style.css file. And we're going to examine both of these to answer these questions. First question: what changes is the new language making to the page? Let me collapse. So here is the new language. Click on that second file. Here is the code for that file. What are the changes that this code is making to the web page? What are the changes? What is it changing on the web page? Hopefully you said color, right? It is changing the color of the text. And maybe you notice that it's also changing the alignment of the text, the position, where the text is positioned. For H1, the big tag, the big text, the alignment is in the center, so it's centered on the page. For H2, which is the red text, the alignment is to the right, so it's moving to the right of the page. So according to this file, the style.css file, we are changing the color and the alignment. Question number 2, how is this language different from HTML? So again, here is our CSS file. Take a look at that language, the kind of symbols that are being used, the structures that are being used. How is this different from the code that we use in HTML? What are some differences you see? Some responses were in class were that these were shorter, that the code here is shorter than the code here sometimes, right? This is a very short web page, so there's not much code. In HTML, we have these opening tags and closing tags with the greater than and less than symbols. However, in style.css, we don't see those same symbols. We see these curly braces instead. So that's another difference in between CSS and HTML. Last question. How are the index.html and style.css files connected? So let's take a look. How are they connected? There's nothing here that connects them. Let's take a look at our index.html file. Go ahead and examine the lines. I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Where do you see that it's connecting that HTML file to the style.css file? Where do you see the name of the file? Hopefully you looked at line 4 where we see link and then we see the name of the file, style.css. This is telling the computer, hey, I'm going to connect you to a style sheet. And the name of the file is style.css. And that's what we see here, style.css. All right, here we're just exploring. We're not typing anything. We're just checking it out. And now we're going to go ahead and continue on to the next bubble. Bubble number 4 is a video. So I would like you to pause my video so that you can watch the video on Code Studio. Once you finish watching the video on Code Studio, then you can go ahead and come on back. All right, welcome back. I hope you watched the video. And now we're going to practice some of the things that were in the video. Continue. Bubble 5. CSS and text color. This HTML file uses a style sheet, style.css, to give the page a particular style. The style sheet contains information about what each of the HTML elements should look like. Do this. Find the code in the style sheet that is making the H1 heading red. Change the code of the color for the H1 heading from red to another color. So basically, we just want to change this heading H1 from red to another color. So we have to go into the style.css file. That's where we style everything. And we have to look for the code that tells the computer to turn that text red and change it. What line should we change? Where should we change the color? Where should we change the color? Yes, line 2. I'm assuming you said line 2 where it says red. So go ahead and delete red. Be careful not to delete the semicolon. This little semicolon that's here, do not delete it, because remember in that video that you watched, you should have watched it, that video that you watched, we need a colon after the property, and then we need a semicolon after the value. Red is the value, but we're going to change that value, and you're going to choose a different value, a different color. Go ahead and choose your own color. You can start typing a letter and it'll pop up different colors. If you know a color that you like, you can do that. Ooh, I'm going to go with, indigo. Yeah, I'll keep that. I'm looking here. Yeah, I'll go with indigo. There we go. So that's the color I chose. Feel free to choose your own color. And that's how we're doing in this bubble. So once you change the color, you can go ahead and click finish. Oh, I did want to note, if you change the color, but it's not changing it, and you typed it in, you did exactly what I did on my screen, you changed the color, your semicolon is there, all you did was change the word, but it's not showing up, try clicking refresh and save. This purple button on the right side, click refresh and save. And keep that in mind for anytime you change your code and it looks good, it looks correct, there's no errors, but it's not showing up on the other side, click refresh and save, because sometimes the computer doesn't automatically update that code. Okay, now moving on to bubble 6. Making a new CSS rule set. The block of code that gives rules for a particular tag is called a rule set, a set of rules. You can make a new rule set by copying the pattern you see in the rule set for the H1 tag. Do this. Find the CSS rule set in the style sheet that determines the style for the H1 tag. Using the same pattern, write a new CSS rule set that will determine the style for the H3 tag. Add code to set a different color for the H3 tags. So that's basically telling us we saw the code for how to make this a different color, the H1 tag. But now we need to add code to make the H3 tags, which is the subtitles. Most M&Ms eaten, blindfolded, largest bubble blown, hula hoop marathon. We want to change those and change their color. Let's go into style.css. We're going to go to line 8, hit enter. I'm going to hit enter again, so there's an extra space. And since we're changing H3, I need to type H3. H3. Now I need to open the rule sets, right? I need to open the rule sets. So I'm going to use that curly bracket. And if you don't know where to find that on your keyboard, I will show you in just a second. Let me find a good picture. Let's see how good this is. All right. My brightness is a little low. Okay, so here on your keyboard, now it's too bright. Okay, here on your keyboard, next to the letter P, if you look at your keyboard, you have these two brackets. There's the straight brackets. We're not going to use the straight brackets. We need to use the curly braces. So to get the curly braces, you need to hold Shift and then press whatever button you need. You will also need to use in CSS the colon and the semicolon. So that's the key. My picture's like a little blurry. Here we go. That's the key next to the L, right? The colon is the top one. It's 2 dots. And the semicolon is 1 dot with the comma. All right. So that's what we're going to use along with the brace buttons, the curly braces. Okay. Coming back. So you should have typed, H3, open curly brace, then hit enter 2 times. So we create some space and close that curly brace. Now we're going to go in between. This is where we're going to input our property and our value. Since we're changing the color, that is the property that we're changing. So it's property first, so color, colon, 2 dots, and give it your value. What value do you want to give this? What color do you want to choose? I'm going to go with, maybe a lavender to go with the color. That might be too light. Nope, that's too light. Choose your own color. I'm choosing my own color. Purple plum. Oh, plum. Is it too light? That works. That's fine. I went with plum. So don't forget, I almost forgot, don't forget the semicolon at the end, right? Don't forget the semicolon. If your code doesn't change, remember you can press refresh and save. Refresh and save on the right side. Refresh and save. And that's all we're doing for bubble 6. Let's go ahead and continue on to bubble 7. Click finish. Bubble 7. All right. Changing text size. You can control other things besides colors by using other properties. Do this. Find the CSS rule set in the style sheet that determines the style for the paragraph tag. Change the text size of the paragraphs and headings. Let's go into our CSS file. And here we see font size for H1, font size for paragraph, and there is not a font size for H3, so we're going to have to add that. For each of these, I want you to change the size. So I'm going to start with H3 so I can add font size. And notice it has to be in pixels. So I'm going to start with 25 pixels. I'm going to change my H1 to 30 pixels. And I'm going to make my paragraph a little bit bigger. I'm going to change that to 18 pixels. Remember, if those changes don't show up, click refresh and save. All right, everybody. So again, we just changed the size of our headings and our paragraphs. And this is the end of this part 1 video. I'm going to have to pick up on part 2. So make sure you watch part 2 to finish lesson 6.